Hey there, history buff. Let's talk about one of the most legendary figures to ever stride across the pages of history, Alexander the Great. You've probably heard his name before, but do you know why he's still such a big deal over 2,300 years later? Spoiler alert, it's not just because he had the Great tacked onto his name. This guy didn't just conquer lands, he reshaped the world, blending cultures, pushing boundaries, and leaving behind a legacy that still inspires leaders, soldiers, and dreamers today. So grab your favorite drink, settle in, and let's dive into the life and times of history's ultimate overachiever. First things first, who exactly was this guy? Born in 356 BCE in Pella, Macedonia, Alexander III inherited more than just a kingdom from his father, King Philip II. He also got ambition, a lot of it. By the time he was 20, he'd become king after Philip's assassination, and by the time he died at just 32, he'd built one of the largest empires the ancient world had ever seen. Stretching from Greece to Egypt to India, his conquests spanned 3 continents and countless cultures. Not bad for someone who didn't even live long enough to see their 33rd birthday, right? But here's the thing, Alexander wasn't just a conqueror. He was a visionary, a military genius, and some would argue, a bit of a madman. Let's break down what made him so extraordinary. Ever wonder where Alexander got his big ideas? Part of the credit goes to his tutor, none other than Aristotle, one of the greatest philosophers of all time. Aristotle taught him philosophy, science, medicine, and even ethics. But while Aristotle emphasized moderation and balance, Alexander seemed to take those lessons as a challenge. If something was worth doing, it was worth doing on an epic scale. From a young age, Alexander showed signs of greatness. At 16, he was already acting as regent while his dad was away on campaigns. And when he led troops against a rebellious tribe shortly afterward, he crushed them and founded his first city, modestly naming it Alexandria. Yep, even back then, he knew how to leave his mark. Alexander's real claim to fame, though, was his unparalleled skill as a commander. His army wasn't the biggest or the best equipped, but under his leadership, they became unstoppable. He combined speed, strategy, and sheer audacity to outmaneuver enemies much larger than himself. Battles like Issus and Gaugamela showcased his ability to think several steps ahead, traits that earned him loyalty from his men and fear from his foes. Now, let's talk about the meat and potatoes of Alexander's story, his conquests. In just 13 years, he turned a small kingdom in northern Greece into a sprawling empire that stretched from Europe to Asia to Africa. Here are some highlights. The Persian Empire, ruled by Darius III, was the superpower of its day. But Alexander wasn't intimidated. Over the course of several battles, he systematically dismantled the empire, culminating in the decisive Battle of Gaugamela in 331 BCE. Afterward, Babylon, Persepolis, and Susa, the jewels of Persia, all fell into his hands. As he marched through conquered territories, Alexander founded dozens of cities, many of which were named Alexandria. The most famous of these is Alexandria in Egypt, which became a center of learning and culture thanks to its legendary library. These cities weren't just vanity projects, they helped spread Greek culture, language, and influence across the empire. Alexander didn't stop once he reached the edge of the Persian Empire. Oh no, he kept going. He invaded modern-day Afghanistan, Pakistan, and even parts of India, where he faced off against King Porus in the brutal Battle of the Hydaspes. It was during this campaign that his men finally said, "Enough." Exhausted and homesick, they refused to go any further, forcing Alexander to turn back. So, what set Alexander apart from other conquerors? Here are a few reasons why his name has echoed through the centuries. Alexander wasn't just conquering for the sake of power. He wanted to create a unified world. He He adopted local customs, married Persian princesses, and encouraged his soldiers to do the same. This policy of cultural fusion laid the groundwork for the Hellenistic era, a golden age of art, science, and philosophy. There's no denying that Alexander had guts. Whether it was crossing desert wastelands, scaling mountain passes, or swimming across raging rivers, he never shied away from a challenge. His willingness to take risks inspired his men to follow him anywhere, even to the ends of the earth. Despite being royalty, Alexander lived like one of his men. He fought alongside them in battle, shared their hardships, and celebrated their victories. That personal connection fostered fierce loyalty among his troops, making them willing to endure incredible hardships for him. Of course, no legend is without its flaws, and Alexander was no exception. For every tale of his brilliance, there's another of his ruthlessness, paranoia, or ego. Alexander could be merciless when crossed. Whole cities were razed, populations massacred, and rivals eliminated without hesitation. As his empire grew, so did his distrust. He executed close friends and advisors suspected of betrayal, including his childhood friend Clytus, whom he killed in a drunken rage. Some historians argue that Alexander began to believe his own myth, styling himself as a god-king. This arrogance alienated many of his followers, and may have contributed to his downfall. Alexander's death in 323 BCE remains shrouded in mystery. Some say it was fever, others poison, and still others suggest it was simply exhaustion from years of relentless campaigning. Whatever the cause, his passing marked the end of an era. Without a clear successor, his empire fragmented into warring kingdoms ruled by his generals, a testament to how much rested on his shoulders alone. Fast forward to today, and Alexander's impact is everywhere. His campaigns spread Greek culture, language, and ideas across 3 continents, laying the foundation for the Hellenistic age. His vision of a unified world continues to inspire leaders, strategists, and adventurers alike. Even modern militaries study his tactics, proving that his genius transcends time. But perhaps the most enduring lesson of Alexander's life is this: greatness isn't just about what you achieve, it's about how far you're willing to push yourself to get there. Sure, he had flaws, but his ambition, courage, and determination remind us that sometimes the impossible is only impossible until someone comes along and does it. Next time you hear the name Alexander the Great, don't just think of a conqueror. Think of a man who dared to dream bigger than anyone else, who pushed the boundaries of what was possible, and whose legacy continues to shape our world today. Love him or hate him, you can't deny that Alexander left an indelible mark on history. Until next time, stay curious, and maybe channel a little of Alexander's boldness in your own adventures.